All right, Bigfoot Society. You've got the privilege of talking to Sayra Hall today. Thanks for being
Hello.
on the show, Sayra. How are you?
Great. How are you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thanks for
This is
having
this
me.
is yeah, this is a fun interview for me because even though I spend all my time pretty much doing the podcast, I also love watching stuff to do with Bigfoot. And you are the person behind Bigfoot Fades, which is really my favorite. I would say my favorite YouTube Bigfoot channel, and
Oh,
it's
thank you.
incredible. And everyone needs to be subscribed to that. So, just a few things about Sayra. Sarah's a barber from Clackamas County, Oregon, which has a ton of activity in it. Most listeners will know any town in Clackamas. I mean, that's your Mount Hood National Forest area. Places like Malala is in the Clackamas too, right? And Estacada and
Malala,
Colton. Yeah.
Colton, Beaver Creek, Oregon
Yep.
City.
Goat Mountain, all that good stuff. Do you mind sharing how you got into doing the Bigfoot Fades channel and what all is entailed with that?
Yeah, well, actually, it has a lot to do with you, but let me start first with kind of my interest in Bigfoot. I want to say it kind of started back in 2012, and I was working in Portland at a barber shop over in Selwood that I helped open. And my brother kept sending me all these like YouTube videos and saying, "Hey, Bigfoot's real." And he's kind of a prankster type of guy, so I thought he was kind of messing with me, but I realized he was actually being pretty serious. So I started watching everything I could find on YouTube. And back in 2012, this is kind of when YouTube sort of took off and started. There wasn't really much out there. So I just started asking people that I was cutting their hair. And I only had one person that told me, "Hey, yeah, I used to be a firefighter down in Sisters, Oregon." And actually, I got like a big casting down there. And a bunch of my friends told me that it they wouldn't tell me what it was. And so I said, "Really?" And he was pretty serious. I could tell he was telling me the truth. And that was the only story I got. And it kind of just died from 2012 until this year, actually. I kind of dropped it and didn't have any leads. Well, anyways, I started working in a few new areas and I moved out to the forest of Clackamas County about, I want to say 5 years ago. And then my brother goes, "Hey, you should start looking and asking people again." And I thought, okay. So I started asking people, and actually, so this is how it gets into your channel. Somebody was telling me, "Yeah, you should actually check out Sasquatch Chronicles." And I said, okay. So I started watching some stories on there. And then your channel showed up. And then there was some stories that were kind of hitting Colton, Malala, Estacada. And I'm like, "No way, they're out here." And I'm like looking outside,
Yeah.
like, wait, they could actually. So I commented on one of your stories, and then you reached out to me actually and said, "Hey, I'd love to hear more from you." So that's where I started collecting stories from other people, and all of a sudden they just started flooding in. And so yes, my channel, to answer your question, was basically to help support your channel and collect stories from other people that have had encounters.
It's so cool. If everyone that listened to this show did something like that, can you imagine? Oh my goodness, we would be so much further along. But Sayra, the thing about your channel is that it's such an active area, Clackamas County. Um, people, I don't know if you really get it until you go out there, which I did spend some time out there this summer in July, and it is extremely saturated. The things that you have going, I would even imagine you can probably go up to most people on the street in certain towns and say, like, just be like, "Hey, what's your Bigfoot story?" And they will have, if not a first person account, they will have at least some secondhand thing that they've heard. Usually you can get to these areas where the towns intersect the forest. I would guess, what, 45 minutes from Portland, probably?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Wild stuff. So I remember the first time I listened to your show, it's very cool because it has a certain NPR vibe to it, because you could actually hear the sound effects of you cutting hair as you're talking to the person and about their Bigfoot story. Really, really cool stuff. Do you have any favorite stories that come to mind that you've heard over the short amount of time that you've been able to talk to people about their encounters?
Yeah, I would say my favorite story, because I didn't actually believe it at first, it was just so out there, was one where a guy told me he was hunting in the redland forest of Oregon City area. He had to go past a gate. And he was hunting with his dad, but his dad was kind of off in another area. And he sees a deer through his scope and he gets the deer. And he said what he thought at first was a bear came up and tried to take the deer. But when he looked closer, it wasn't a bear. It was like a giant Sasquatch, he said. And he goes, yeah, I just popped off 3 shots kind of near it just to kind of scare it off. And it did kind of a jump. And then it just kind of took off through the forest. And I couldn't believe this guy wasn't, more like excited about it. He actually seemed annoyed that Bigfoot tried to take his deer.
Right.
So that story, I think, really stood out to me. And again, like it was really hard for my brain to process this new information until a week later, another man who doesn't know this person told me he also saw a Bigfoot in that same area of Viola in the Redland area. And it was just standing in the road when him and his dad were kind of driving around there. And he goes, yeah, at first I thought it was a man, then I thought it was an animal. And when we drove up closer to it, it was just sort of staring at us. And it almost made me wonder if it was the same rogue Bigfoot, because they were both 2 years ago in the same area.
Oh, man. Whoa. Okay. When you're talking to people in areas of Clackamas County, when you're doing your barber thing, have you found that there are certain areas that keep coming up in stories? I have found that myself with areas like Clackamas County and really Oregon in general.
Yeah, I feel like up in that Tumala Mountain, previously known as Squaw Mountain, up off of Oregon's Bigfoot Highway, there's definitely a lot of activity up there. And I've definitely heard from there. And then that stretch over into Colton, it seems like there's just a really hot spot through that whole area there, where all the activity. And I'd actually like to create a map like you've done and start kind of seeing where these connect to each other.
I would recommend you do that probably now instead of 3 years in the future.
Okay. Yeah,
like I did.
You're almost on 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, because I the other day I try to work on it every day. I'm like, I think, and I'm no, dude, you've got like 600 episodes left to go through for this map.
Oh man.
But it's really worth it because, Sayra, this is what happened to me when I went out to Oregon this July. So I'm out down in Oak Ridge. I'm like, all right, I'm going up to Mount Hood. And so I'm driving up and over the passes, and I'm going from Subtle Lake up to Estacada area.
Okay.
And through Detroit and stuff. And this is before the map. And I was like, I know there's stuff that's happened all over here, but I couldn't like remember all of it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is why I need a map, because when I'm out here, there is so much stuff. And like, I need to remember, okay, you need to check out places like Fish Lake before you get to the pass. And next time I'll be more prepared and I'll be able to look up pretty much all the people I've talked to. Have you found that when you're talking to people, are they more of a certain age bracket? Are these more younger people or older people, or is it really all over the place?
I feel like most of them, I'd say about 70% are older people. I've got a lot of older hunters that, they don't have the internet. They come out of the woods every 6 months for a haircut kind of thing. Mm. And some of them I've cut their hair multiple times before even asking them about it. And very seriously, they'll tell me, hey, yeah, I have seen something back in the 60s or 70s up until recently. And then there's a few younger people, like the guy with the hunting with the deer. And that he was, I'd say, younger, probably in his 30s, a couple of 30-year-olds. And I've even had some pretty young kids actually tell me that they've seen things at night at like 1 a.m, like 3 tall, black shadowy figures. And then I had another man tell me the same story in that same area.
Yeah, I think I remember because your channel at the beginning had was it teenagers that were around the was it like wood yard, or it pretty much, I think it was like right outside of Estacada, and they had a sighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old abandoned lumber mill that I believe was taken
Yes.
down. It actually feels pretty haunted out there. I don't know if I'm allowed to say like certain TV show names, but it kind of reminds me of a
You can do whatever you want.
Stranger Things. Have you seen Stranger Things at all?
Totally.
It feels like that.
Really?
It
Oh my goodness.
feels the energy out, especially we'll just focus on like Estacada. I've gone out there a few times. It's very intense out there. Like you just feels like you're in this all of a sudden this energy bubble when you go out there. So yeah, it kind of feels like Stranger Things.
I will agree with you on that. I did go out in that area this last July, and it's one of those areas in Oregon. You get out in the woods, and things can change really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole like it gets quiet and things of that nature, and hopefully someday there'll be more info that comes out about that trip, but not quite yet. But
Yeah, and I've been going out there since I was like a really small child. My mom took us to the Mount Hood Forest, and I mean, since we were like little babies, and I still remember this one time we went up to the Carver Park, and she found this actual like wolf dog and took it home.
oh wow,
And she ended up having to rehome this dog because it was just so wild. But Estacada's always had like a wild side to it, and I've been associated with it since just even a small child. So as far as even bringing wolf dogs home.
over the years, and especially you did mention that you actually live out in the forest, really.
Yes,
Fine.
Beaver
Okay.
Creek, Milano area.
Have you had anything out of the ordinary happen to yourself out there in that area?
So I've been trying to pay more attention. I actually looked up to see if there's any sightings in my area, and I did find one from Cliff Bergson on his website from Beaver Creek, Oregon, and it said it was off Beaver Creek Road in Upper Highland. And so I know where that area is. I know it's in distance where if there was a Bigfoot, it could get over to my area. And so I started looking around and I found a couple questionable possible footprints and took some castings of those. I've seen some weird kind of like limbs that were placed up against a tree. And when I asked all my family, they all said none of them did that. And I've been trying to tell them, hey, that it could be Bigfoot and try to educate them on it. And now they're all kind of going, huh, maybe they are out here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I cannot imagine being someone that lives in that area and just the opportunity to be able to just go out in these areas. The areas I was going out to in Estacada, I mean, you'd be on top of this ridge and you would see all these branches and trees just like twist broken, like 8 to 10 feet off. They're all over the place, dude. And I don't know if that's something that you see down in your area, but it's breathtaking the first time you actually see that in person. It is wild stuff.
Yeah, I saw one actually a couple days ago for the first time. I was driving and they were doing tree trimming along the very end of Upper Highland. And one caught my eye. I go, oh my gosh, it looked like, a tree about this big and it had been twisted off to the side. And so when I came back that way later in the day, I actually tried to get video of it, but I had a truck behind me, so I had to be kind of quick about it. Sort of a sketchy spot to stop and private property. But yeah, it didn't look right. I've never seen a tree twisted like that. And then I noticed behind it like a creek waterway. And when I looked at old Street View, it was actually all forest, but it has now been turned into like a scaled down tree farm for like Christmas trees. If you go further up into Colton, one guy was telling me that his mom and aunt, I think it was about 30 years ago, had seen a giant Bigfoot run across the way from them on a few miles up from there.
Oh my goodness. And this is actually, this is in a video, everything you just shared. Sometimes you'll put out videos where you're like just driving along the road, which is cool in itself, because then you get to see what it's like to drive out in Oregon.
Yeah.
But you actually show, I think, video or pictures of that tree that you found, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always driving with dash cam because I'm hoping I'll catch one run out in front of me. My luck, he'll run behind me, and my back dash cam isn't set up yet.
Right. That'd be cool though. something I've noticed that you started to do, which I think is cool, and I want to start trying to implement this myself, is you've actually started to get people to come on camera to share their encounters. And some of those just seem like they're people maybe out walking on the side of the road in town, maybe not especially in a barber chair. But can you share like how does that process work? How are you able to get those people on camera? Because it's one thing to get audio of someone, but to get someone to actually put their face out there, that's another thing entirely.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, I've always done telemarketing and sales, and my philosophy has always been it doesn't hurt to ask them if they want dessert, you know? So if you don't ask
Okay.
them, you know, the least I can say is no. I definitely get a lot of no's. So, you know, there's a lot of people that don't even want to be on a podcast, but they still want to tell me their story. And I think it ties back into another thought I've had is that I've seen kind of a split where some people have a lot of excitement with their story and the other half kind of exhibit this sort of PTSD. And I feel like the ones that do want to go on camera, I sort of lean into the fact I'm feeling more of that excitement from them. And even I've kind of dropped the subject with them and they'll come back later and like really bring it up. So I'm just trying to not be too pushy with people and let them, you know, lead their story if they want to.
Have you ever experienced it where you are uh, talking to someone about their encounter and their emotional state starts changing rapidly? Have you ever experienced that yourself?
Yeah, I was actually doing my friend Gail's hair yesterday. We were doing a hair color on her. And she told me a story before, non Bigfoot related, but it was sort of a ghost story about how she saw someone that looked like, I think, Charles Manson back at her Nebraska house. Anyways, I was doing her hair again yesterday, and she goes, you know, the more we've been talking about it, the more I had this repressed memory that's been coming back. And I was about 5 years old, and I was in Nebraska, and I went off, and it was really humid out. The forest was really quiet, and I saw this branch just swinging like someone had taken it and swung it. And she goes, I kept trying to want to tell you about this, but my mind kept saying, no, that didn't happen. But she goes, no, it happened. I remember it. And it was like something didn't want me there. And the forest just got so quiet. And I went back to my family as quick as I could. And I thought about that. And I was thinking about my own memories. Like I told you as a child, like, you know, did I see some weird looking people when I was camping with my family? You know, you start thinking about these memories.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a therapy session where it starts reopening these locked memories that people have.
No, it really is. Interviewing the person is almost as interesting as the subject matter itself sometimes.
It is.
That's how I feel, anyways. Um, the encounters that you are taking, and they're primarily, I'd say a lot of them are from the Clackamas County area. Have you found any patterns as to like, are there a lot of aggressive ones, or are there a lot where, you know, the Bigfoot really isn't bothered and kind of just walks off and like, hey, see you later, or any patterns like that?
I'd say more of them are aggressive, actually, which has me kind of feeling like I don't know if I want to go out there and physically look for them. I'm still on the fence about that. I'm kind of enjoying being more on the research side. One story up in Tumala Mountain was two men went up there years ago. They found a bear that had been like ripped in half and its head ripped off, and it was still freshly bleeding. And he goes, my friend was, you know, 6 foot tall, and he's jumping over logs and running out of there. They just felt something watching them. And I'm like, okay. And then I heard another story, I think on your podcast, about a hunter found under a tree that had been ripped apart also by some unknown animal.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of seeing this pattern with like a ripping apart type of thing. So that's where the data starts to collect and go. Because, you know, I've told other people the story and they believe it, or they go, oh, there's no way, you know, it had to have been another bear or this or that. Well, right now, you know, there's missing people up in that area right now that they have search parties out there for. And so when you get these kind of things going on, it kind of starts to hold water.
No, absolutely. And that's actually a pattern that's come up on the podcast too. And You're absolutely right because, man, to tag on to that, so your account that you have of the bear being torn apart, and then I believe the one that you referenced to on my show, that's down in the Talladega National Forest in Alabama. But then you
Yeah.
also have accounts where people are finding grizzly bears out in Montana with their necks broken. And the kind of common thing there is that those things take something with hands to do, right? I mean, to tear something apart or to break something's neck, or you have a lot of reports of animals found twisted, like foxes being twisted, things like that. I agree with you. I don't think that I would ever. I'll go on record. I will not ever go, especially in that area, out in the woods by myself. I don't think that is a smart idea at all for
No.
multiple reasons. Not just Bigfoot, but there's also some pretty wild encounters you can have with humans out there as well. And
Yeah.
I've heard some really horror stories about that.
I've heard that too, kind of up that Tumel Mountain. Someone said something about, and this story, of course, I should have written it down, but it was something about there was some kind of cult up there that either they or somebody else they knew kind of stumbled upon, and there was some kind of weird animal sacrifice stuff going on up there. And so, anyways, they've had a history up in the woods of Mount Hood of some really odd activity, even still to this day, still stuff going on. Just kind of different camps going on and bonfires at night and sketchy kind of energy up there sometimes.
Have you ever experienced people that have also seen things besides Bigfoot, but in the same area, maybe things of high strangeness, orbs or lights, or things that are hard for them to explain besides Bigfoot?
Yeah, it's buried in my notes a little bit, but I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 stories where there's orbs associated with Bigfoot sightings and Christmas tree areas and forest areas. I believe one story, the guy was chasing the orb and trying to figure out where it was going. And I feel like the color seems to keep being blue orbs. It's a theme. I have heard of orange orbs. One of my clients told me that he's seen one up in, I want to say Washington area, and it was kind of floating and then it just sort of shot off in the sky. So that's another orb story there. And I find those really fascinating.
Oh, I as well. I mean, and it's a thing where I've never seen a Bigfoot, but and it sounds like you are in the same camp. You have not had a visual yet
Not
yourself
yet.
either. Yeah, but I've never seen an orb either. Have you seen an orb yet?
I haven't seen an orb, but there was one night when I was living in Selwood. They were posting on Facebook saying, "Hey, the Northern Lights are going to be out tonight, so you should go out and check them out." So I was upstairs, and again, this is around 2012, and I was looking out the window to see if I'd see the Northern Lights, and I saw these 2 really bright white lights that were kind of going like this, and then they stopped, and then they started going like this. I was like, "What the heck?" So I ran downstairs and I went outside to kind of get a better look, and they were gone. So that's the only time I've ever seen anything that actually stopped midair, so calculated and actually went in a different direction. I don't think it could have been a helicopter. I chalked it off as maybe government drones that were trying to look at the lights or something, but now I'm not sure.
Okay, that's really interesting.
It's too far from the airport for it to be like an air traffic control light also.
Good call. Good call. Does anyone bring up anything, any interactions with Bigfoot that would be labeled more paranormal, or things like I heard a voice in my head, or I saw one disappear? Does that ever come up, or is it more like we saw something that looked like a really big ape out in the woods and have no idea what it is?
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely got kind of a mix of stories. I feel like there's been this split of people that believe in Bigfoot and then people that don't believe in Bigfoot. And now the people that believe in Bigfoot, that community has split again into people that believe in Bigfoot and then people that believe in paranormal Bigfoot. And I sort of sit in the middle as an investigator, open to like all these different encounters because, like I was saying before, sometimes my brain says, oh, that can't be real until I start hearing more data. And then I'm like, well, obviously they have to eat deer or something. So now that does make sense. So the paranormal to me, my brain of processing it is, maybe we just don't understand everything the way that we've been told. So like energy, I've always been into, personally, like my religion and all that. I grew up Catholic and Christian and all that, but I feel like I've kind of segued more into like a quantum physics type of person. I wouldn't say personally, I'm super like religious. I'm kind of more into like feeling like there's kind of like Stranger Things, like when they were in that upside down world. I almost feel like there's this other energy world out there that we're tapped into, and I just don't know that we know as very much about it yet. So that's just kind of what my vibe is.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Have you been able to? I would really recommend reading Dr. Simeon Hines' book if you get a chance to. It really lays out a lot of cool stuff, and or the 2-part interview that he does on Flash of Beauty. I enjoy that. I mean,
I love that show.
I also you could listen to him on Bigfoot Society too, but the 2-part interview on Flash of Beauty is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. I would recommend it. You had so you sent me an email a while back.
Yes.
And I want to, if you could, so it's some pictures that you sent, and they're really, really interesting. And can you share the story of how you got these pictures first, and what you know about the background of them?
Yeah, so they're actually from somebody who had been on my podcast. He has 2 different stories here, and then I'll look at the story here real quick. So he has the story on here that's called, let's see, it's the Bigfoot 1996 Estacada sighting. So he had a sighting himself in 1996, and then his friend's son had an Eagle Cap Wilderness sighting that's pretty interesting, where he had a visual where it came out on a road on them. So that's a great story to check out. So I followed up with him later. He actually told me, he goes, "Hey, look at this." And I go, "What is that?" And he's kind of looking through his phone at first, like he's so excited to show this to me. And so he finally shows it to me, and I didn't know what I was looking. I go, "What is that?" He goes, "It's a Bigfoot." And I looked at it like, "No, it's not." And I looked at it, I go, "Oh my." And not this picture, but the other one, I actually, when I clicked on the other one, I could see a face on it like right away. And I go, "Well, how'd you get this?" And he goes, "Well, it was our friend's friend that's a wildland firefighter that had sent it to us in our forum." And I go, "Is it okay if I share this?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely. Go at it." And he goes, "Yeah, he was out there working, and he's seen a Bigfoot out there just sifting through ashes." And at first my brain was like, why would it be sifting through ashes? So I started researching why something would, put ashes on itself. And it said sometimes if you have burn injuries, it could be healing for heat protection. There was a few different examples that came up. But then if you look at the other picture and go to the top left of it and kind of zoom in, it almost looks like there's another one up there watching. So it's
really?
It's the other picture, I think. The one where it's like
the other one.
Yeah,
so
that one.
Not the Darth Vader one. I call the other one the Darth Vader one.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right there.
Oh,
yeah, because
my
if you
goodness.
look at it, it's like a different color of black compared to the tree.
Totally.
So I noticed that. So something I've been trying to do too is really, so I also went to school for technology and cybersecurity, and I feel like I just kind of have a knack for the tech stuff. And I've been using AI and Photoshop and all this stuff to kind of really enhance and bring these photos to life. So the third photo where you kind of see more of a picture, I went in and cleaned it up the best I could. And you could also see almost like a very wide looking nose, like 2 eyes, pigment of like skin that's lighter than the hairline. And I was actually able to use an AI to actually bring that to life. And I didn't even say anything to AI like this is a Sasquatch or this is, AI just did. I just put it in there and it interpreted it, which was really fascinating.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is I think that's on your channel too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And the other thing about this picture is I accidentally clicked on the picture and it was like redo location. or something like that. And then I actually found data on the picture that said it was from 2016 and I think Sublimity, Oregon. And I found the location. And when I did a Google Earth location of that, it was all burnt down. So it really just like lined up too that it was a picture from that time. And there was also a wildfire story on the news from that area too at that time.
Which is huge. And it's because that's something I was going to bring up, because I was looking through them as well. And I was like, oh yeah, the metadata is all here on these two pictures, which is incredible. It's actually still in the format that it would be if it was taken on, I believe HEIC is more like the Apple one for iPhones. And those two original photos are in there. The cool thing is that, so you got the GPS coordinates, and so I looked it up as well, and the area that it comes up is just east of the John Day area, which I mean fits, because I've personally had 3 reports from that area, and usually it's people that are freaked out big time by something and end up running away, or they get like an infrasound activity, and it's just some really, really weird stuff that happens in the John Day area. But so you're saying that this actual, the guy, you were able to interview the guy about what was happening when he took this photo, or it's just the same guy, different story?
So it's a guy that's been on my podcast, like friend.
Oh,
like
that's
it's
right.
his friend or his friend's friend. So it's almost like a hearsay photo that I got from them. But these are all hunter guys that have been hunting throughout Oregon forever. And, you know, I'm really good at reading like body language and stuff. He seemed really like legit about it and really excited. And I mean, I know Photoshop, and there's no way in AI and all that could have been an AI or Photoshop picture, especially 2 really good ones like that, and especially with the metadata coming from 2016.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing, I see so many photos that come into my email. There's nothing that jumps out that is saying, oh, these are obvious fakes. And I mean, it's just cool. Like the one where it feels like it's kind of, you know, bent over, probably getting ashes or something. I mean, the head shape is right. It looks like there's not really a neck to it. I don't know what you would say, like it feels like it's kind of leaning forward, although it's probably trying to get the ashes. And man, it is just there's some of the coolest photos that I've ever seen. So people really need to check out the AI movement that you were able to make it do over on your channel. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that one was a pretty good shot there, actually. And then I did some other AI where I brought Patty to life, and with that one, I also didn't say anything about it being like, you know, a Bigfoot or anything. I just put it in there, and then what AI did with it was pretty amazing. And then when I created the video, as I got further in, I said, you know, give Patty a baby or make Patty like fight the cougar. But the first few clips, they're about like 5 seconds each. That was all AI's interpretation of like what it was in the picture. So you just submit it into Grok, and then it like just turns it into something, what it interprets. So that was kind of fascinating. And I've been doing it for other shots for other people and sending it to them, like trail cam shots. And then Hugh, I think you've had Hugh on your show before up in Washington. He's got a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I've cleaned up 2 things for him, and I don't want to post it yet because I need to chat with him first, but I've cleaned up a couple photos for him, and he's pretty excited about what I did there, and actually turned him into video too. So I don't know if you remember the one where he's standing there and it's kind of shaking a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. It's got to be the video where he's on top of the mountain and it's shaky, right?
There's 2. There's the on top of the mountain one, and there's one where he's scoping from like across, and there's like kind of like logs, and it looks like something. And I immediately, it's like, I see a face on that. So I cleaned it up, and it almost looks to me almost like a longer face Bigfoot with like more of a cinnamon color hair. And my theory too is like maybe you have some that have rounder faces like Brad Pitt, longer faces like Nicolas Cage. Maybe some are getting mistaken as Dogman. I don't know, but I'm open to kind of understanding these different face shapes with them.
A Nicolas Cage Bigfoot would be cool.
Yeah, I think so.
That'd be pretty solid. That'd be rocking. A lot of emotion.
Yes.
Maybe not. Do you ever get stuff from? Does it all seem to be pretty much from Clackamas, or do you ever get stuff from like Detroit and a little further south?
Blue Mountains.
Okay. Yep.
And yeah, so that was one older hunter, I want to say in his 80s. He said he's seen one over there back in, it was either the 1960s or 1970s. And I asked him, well, you know, what did it look like? And he goes, oh, well, it was just, they're huge and they're multicolored gray like a wolf. And he said, my son-in-law didn't believe me that I was seeing him down there. But since I'm older now, my daughter told me that he has to go hunting with me. So we went somewhat recently, I think he said, and they were in their RV. And the son-in-law believes him now because one came up and was shaking the RV and messing with him. And I just went over to the Bigfoot Research Center and they have a cool map in there with all the pins on there. And Blue Mountains were a really hot spot. So
yeah. Absolutely. The Blue Mountains are an extremely active area, 100%. When you're taking encounters, does stuff come up where it's not Bigfoot, but maybe, well, let's say, do you ever get any things like Dogman from the same area?
I feel like there is one Dogman report. I'm trying to remember which story that was, but there was another one where it was actually the first interview I did, and I was just sort of kind of joking around, like maybe I'll do a Bigfoot podcast. And I had kind of a younger kid that day, and I said, "Hey, you know, do you have any Bigfoot stories?" And he's like, "Actually," and I thought this kid was like making it up at first. So this story gets kind of wild. He goes, "Actually, my uncle saw one on his trail cam. It was a baby Bigfoot, you know." And I was like, "But really?" You know? And he goes, "Yeah." So he's actually my first interview on there. Really cool kid and everything. And so later, I don't know, it was a couple months later, I was cutting this guy's hair and I was talking about Bigfoot, and he goes, "Yeah, I actually caught one on my trail cam." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, is this your nephew?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "No way." So he's looking through his phone, and he showed it to me, and I seen it, and I begged him for that picture, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give it to you." Never got the picture, but I saw it. Right. And the best way I can describe it is it kind of looked like a little very black Mickey Mouse running through like a wood pile. And he said he took it up to the North American Bigfoot Center, and 2 out of 3 people there said, "Yeah, you caught a baby Bigfoot." And when you look up like baby gorilla, the shape and the darkness of a baby gorilla was like really spot on. And I asked him if he had any other pictures, and he said, yeah, he caught kind of, I forget how he described it, but it was a sort of like a dogman, something crawling on 4s type of deal. So yeah, I was just talking to my brother about that last night because he's a big Bigfoot believer, but he hadn't even heard of Dogman before. There's a lot of people who have not heard of Dogman. So I'm really starting to kind of see if I can collect anything in that area.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a wild thing. You know, that stuff does come up on the show here too. If it's like, I never go towards it by itself, but like if the person's like, "Oh yeah, I saw Dogman too," like, okay, let's talk about it, you know, and if it comes up organically. But I mean, I was talking to one dude and about the Detroit area, and it's not just like a ton of Bigfoot they have there. There's also a lot of Dogman sightings as well.
In Detroit?
Yeah, kind of north of Detroit, out on one of the roads, not the Oregon Bigfoot Highway road that goes to the east, but like just a random Forest Service road that's north of Detroit. And man, when I drove through that area is nuts. There's a very intense presence. It's hard to explain when you drive through Detroit. And I'll tell you what, people really don't want to talk about Bigfoot there. Like I tried talking to some locals. They were not having it. They were like, nope.
Really?
Oh yeah. It was really intense. Yeah, most places I would talk to people out there or try to, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, totally. Let's talk about it." That was like the one place where they were just not on board. So that makes me realize that any interviews I get from the Detroit area are it's a pretty lucky deal for sure.
Yeah, I've been over there. I'm trying to think what Opal Creek and hiked up in there, and it
Mhm.
definitely feels pretty wild up there. And I've experienced that with people too, that were all of a sudden it's just there's like a shift in energy when you kind of bring it up, and they're like, "Oh no, we don't know." It's like you're asking them like, "Hey, how was that when you went to war?" And they just get all of a sudden shut down, and
That's
that
true.
PTSD, you just see it. And I see a difference between that and between like the ones that just don't believe it, or, I want to respect people's religious beliefs. There's some people have told me they just don't even want to entertain it because they like to go out hunting in the woods and they don't want it to be ruined for them. That's one guy's exact words for me. And I said that was interesting. So I've kind of learned how to navigate around different characters and kind of what they're comfortable with. But I've definitely felt that, that Stranger Things vibe again in some
Mhm.
towns where, that's kind of gone on. Like there's this old barber in Estacada called Millie Kiggins. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Oh
her.
yeah, yeah. This is in the it's actually in the Oregon Bigfoot Highway book by Joe Bielart. There's a big
Yes.
section about this person. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ray Fender, he was talking to me about her, the one that saw the Bigfoot in Estacada when he was a young child. I think that was one of your favorite stories.
Yep. Yep.
Talked to him first, and he was telling me about Millie Kiggins. And when I was reading it in the Oregon Bigfoot Highway, it was saying that they had to kind of like shut people out of that town because she brought so much activity there with it. And then she started to
It's
get people
crazy.
saying, "We're gonna kill this thing, this and that." She's like, "No, no, no, you're turning," and it's just like one of these movies that you watch where she finds this cool thing and then people have to ruin it, and oh, I'll kill it, and I've actually had
Exactly.
people say the same thing to me. I've had, hunters go, if I see one, I'll take it out. And I kind of get, defensive with them and say, it looks like a person though. Every encounter that people have had, every single one I've heard has said it has a face of person. You really think you could like do that to a person? They go, well, I go, no, you don't want to do that. And I go, also, they're protected by the government. I've had hunters tell me that. They go, low key, if you do something to them, they're gonna show up at your house. So don't do that. I'm warning you. If you do see one, you better, prove that it was defense. So leave them alone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some areas in the US where it is like written down. Like if you
Yeah.
do this, like Skamania County, Washington is one, right? Like it's a fine. And I think worse than a fine, actually. Um, yeah, man, if I had a nickel for the people that I've had to convince not to do that to, I'd have a few nickels for sure. It's just
Yeah.
the thing where, well, that what you said, and then also on top of it, it's like you try to do this, you're probably not walking away. I mean, the chances of you walking away from this are so slim. So it's just not a good idea around it all. Just don't do it. For the creature and for yourself. Just walk away.
Well, yeah, and it kind of goes back to the people that are missing, up in the Malala Forest. There's a hunter missing right now in Estacada. They've had the best SAR, search and rescue teams in Oregon looking for this guy right now. And supposedly last week he caught a deer, and I think it was on his Gamma, like satellite radio, according to his Facebook post I saw. He said, "Hey, I got the deer. I'm coming home early." And then there's so much hearsay with this story, so I'm trying to keep it to the most facts that I've seen. They thought they heard 3 SOS shots at night. So they've been out there every day with thermal drones, ATVs. That rock is really unstable. It looks like they're rock climbing with cables just to get down in there and search. They've had the National Guard helicopters and they're looking for this guy. There is no trace of him or the deer at all.
Mm,
It's just he's gone. And I'm not saying it's Bigfoot or anything, but it is an area I have had multiple sightings up there. And I do have the other report
same.
of Bigfoot trying to take a deer from another guy. So I wouldn't rule it out that. And a week before that, I had another hunter tell me he went up there at 6 a.m. and had a giant mountain lion just jump down on the cliff down on him. So there was a note up in Estacada saying, "Watch out, there's a big cat up here."
Mm.
But I don't know. I think a cat if you know, so I don't know. I hope they find the guy. Hopefully he's alive. But I'm just saying, there's mysterious stuff going on. There's another guy. It was up in Colton that's been missing. I'm trying to remember his name, but he's up in the Colton Malala Forest. He was up there looking for deer sheds, and they still haven't found him. Experienced woodsman, and they just found his truck up there, and that was a couple years ago. And I found out about that because one of the local people told me, like I was gonna call missing 411 and get a hold of David Politis, but I don't think the guy's sister ended up doing that, but still never found that person.
Yeah, the first one you mentioned, well, you sent it actually to me pretty quick after it was out there, and then I've been keeping tabs on it because, as you said, I mean, it's an area where we both get a lot of reports from, and I think I read a few interesting things. I read that it's at the point where they're not able to do a continual active search, I believe. Like they, eventually gets to the point where they have to pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. I hope they find a guy. There's so many cases like that happen, but when you hear them happen in certain areas of places like Oregon or Washington, it really does make you think, like, okay, what is the story here?
Well, yeah, and then it's tricky with trying to give support, like saying, hey, this is evidence that I have of the area. It might help you in your investigation and not be laughed at, because there was some comments where I put out there to kind of help support it. And of course, people weren't taking it seriously. So I removed them. But there was one group that I'm part of. It's kind of like a police group on Facebook. And they don't put up with any kind of, online bullying there. So I left my comment up there just saying, hey, I do have a podcast. I just want to let you guys know that there is activity up there, just to give them a heads up, just to keep that in mind at least. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed a lot of other people on this specific thing going on right now this week have been commenting the same thing, saying Bigfoot took him, Sasquatch took him. And I want to be really respectful and thoughtful to the family. But I also, want to support any evidence that I have collected in the area too, and just say, just so you guys know, there are those up there too. But we're kind of on the fence of everyone, not really being aware that they exist. And this kind of falls back into these conversations I have with people daily, and they kind of ask me these same questions again, like, why don't we have pictures? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? And when I start answering all these questions, they kind of stop and go, wow, because they realize I've done my research and I haven't answered to a lot of those, really basic questions that everyone usually asks.
There's other things I've heard about other recent missing person cases in the Pacific Northwest where, there are certain search and rescue individuals that I think they know that, there's Bigfoot activity in these areas. And it's just interesting. It's hard to talk to those people because usually they don't want to come on record. It's totally understandable. But,
and I mean, there's definitely that going on right now where they had the first 5 days where it was only the Clackamas County sheriffs and then the search and rescue, and then the National Guard. And it was, I was reading the locals comments on the Estacado locals page, and they were talking about how it was very hush hush and they weren't being giving very much information, and all the local hunters wanted to go in there and help, and none of them were allowed to go in. And a lot of people were really upset about it. But then a lot of people are saying, well, it's because they don't want them to have another person they have to go look for and all this, like the generic things you would tell the public.
Right.
But then, of course, I'm kind of wondering, are they possibly sitting on any other information, like what you're saying, that would be another reason why they wouldn't let people in there, like they want to go look first. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, it comes down to three options. It's either, as you said, we don't want to go looking for another person, or two, you're going to mess up evidence out there if we have more people, or three, we're also trying to do information damage control at the same time that we are trying to look for someone, which, I think that's three options for sure. But who knows what we'll find out eventually in the future. I think all it takes is one person to share the right thing, or to share like the game cam photo that you saw of the baby Bigfoot, which is incredible. My goodness. I can't imagine seeing that. But I have
Thanks.
a few areas. I'm just curious if you've heard anything about them. And one is, have you heard anything about the Hillock Burn Road area or Goat Mountain?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, those come up a lot. There's actually a lot of stories. Sometimes when I'm super busy working, sometimes I'll do, 12 to 15 haircuts a day. I don't have
Mm.
time to sit down and write down notes for everything. And there was a while there where I got them, but I know that those ones came up not just with the people that I got my interviews and notes, but there was even more outside of that where some people said, oh yeah, back I think 20, 30 years ago, I found giant prints. I went up into Goat Mountain, the guy told me, and we came down, he found some fresh, really giant prints up on Goat Mountain. There's been talk of military sites up on Goat Mountain, secret military sites, stuff going
Oh,
on up
wow.
there.
Really?
Oh yeah, all the locals, Escade area, they talk about it. Some get laughed about it, but a lot of the old school people have kind of told me some stuff about that area. So yeah,
Dang.
yeah, there's some black van activity up there type stuff.
There we go.
Supposedly, this is what I heard. I haven't seen it,
Allegedly.
but allegedly. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's
and I
get this
mean,
episode shut down.
even where I'm sitting right now, I can actually see a couple towers, and I don't think it's the Goat Mountain, but I can see, so sometimes I'll even
Right.
kind of look out there and go, do I see any helicopters and stuff? But yeah, I mean, if you just don't know, you don't know. But once people start telling you, you kind of go, oh, no way. But there's been kind of a rich history. And then Hillock Burn. Yeah, I feel like people still go hunting up there to this day. A few of my friends go up there and go hunting.
Mhm.
And I think that 1996 story might have been up there. They were up there at night, and then they seen, I think it was either Hillock Burn or Wildcat Road. Wildcat Road's another really popular one, which I think goes down into Eagle Creek area, which had a lot of activity too. And they seen one kind of run across the road when they were out there partying at night, some dark figure. So yeah, I feel like, and then Colton, once you go past that, you have Colton. There's one story of a man telling me he grew up in Colton, and he used to visit this older man's house as a child, and the older man was telling him that he was actually feeding the Bigfoots over there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and that story, that was kind of a hard story for me to get. He didn't want to do a podcast or anything, but that was one of the ones where he was kind of shut down, but he kind of wanted to tell me, but he kind of shut down, but and then he did want to talk about it. And I mean, that's huge, so
No, it's a big deal. Yeah. I mean, half the stuff that I hear does not get recorded and does not get put out in places like the podcast 100%, which I'm okay with. So it is, we both know how hard it is to get someone to actually go on record.
I think the biggest PTSD situation, that it was pretty intense. I had one guy do my podcast, and his story's still up there. It's the one with the metallic box.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, he had a hard time with it afterwards, and came and found me and just kind of said, hey, I think, they're after me. My phone's shut down. My bank cards are shut down. Da, da, da. And, me being the tech person, I said, here, let me see. Because, of course, I'm like, I don't know if this is really happening. And he shows me his phone. It's like locked out. And he got a hold of me later and said he thinks he might have just done multiple attempts. And I go, and I was trying to reason with him. I go, well, how come my phone's not, shut down? How come my bank cards aren't shut down? But I could just tell whether it was happening to him or not. I didn't want to tell him I didn't believe him. I'm just trying to be a supportive person. But I realized how much PTSD, because his story was really intense, because it was up on Larch Mountain. And he went up there and he seen this giant Bigfoot holding this giant metallic box. And he said these two people came out, walked out behind the Bigfoot. And it was just him and his friend up there. And there was no cars parked in the parking lot. The only back road was like 7 miles in another direction. So they would have had to come that way. He said they were just dressed in like hiker, like, Columbia sportswear, like light jackets.
Yep.
And he said something to him about it. And the story is more detailed on there. But did you see that figure? And they go, oh yeah, it was a lady in a fur coat. And they kind of leaned in and kind of gave him this impression that they were going to throw him off the cliff. And this guy, I mean, his intensity with the story, it was very traumatic for him. And he was really worried about it. And I'm not sure what was going on with this metallic box, or these people that were trying to convince the guy that it was actually just a lady in a fur coat. But that one is pretty interesting. And anyways, yeah, he got a hold of me later and about the phone and everything. And he said he got it working, but I just tried to calm him down. And I told him, it's okay. I know, I understand. There's a lot of people coming out now. There's so many people coming out now that you'll be okay and you'll be safe. A lot of us have been worried about, asking questions or coming forward. But I think there's just too many of us now that at this point, it kind of is what it is. So you'll be fine. And he was okay with it.
Yeah, 100%. It's at the point where the analogy I use a lot is it's like you keep putting stuff in the bathtub, eventually it's going to overflow and you can't control it. And I think we are like, the UFO community is definitely there. We are like pretty much there with all the different shows and podcasts. And as long as people can just keep on putting out, I think it's so important to get the actual person recorded and telling their own story, which that's why I really like your channel, is because you do that. It's what I try to do with mine as well. It is so important to get that person actually recorded. So Larch was actually, that was the next place I was going to ask you about, because Larch and Bull Run Watershed, which is close to Larch Mountain, has some interesting stuff that's come up on the show. Has Bull Run come up on yours? I think it has,
Bull Run and Sandy. I had one guy, he said he was gonna reach out to me and he just kind of ghosted me, but he said he goes over to his friend's house somewhere in that kind of Bull Route in Sandy. He actually showed me the exact location on Google Maps, but he said they hear him out there every night pretty much. Wow. And then really close to that is a camp. I don't want to say what camp because it involves younger people, but they were out there, and this younger girl, my client's daughter, was telling me that they were out there and they saw these really tall kind of red eyes above this sign at a camp out near Sandy. And then in the morning they found like a giant like footprint, and she just didn't even really care too much about the story. That's something I thought was interesting. She wasn't really even excited. It was just kind of like, yeah, we saw something that last night, red eyes and big footprint. So
yeah, it's just it seems like in places like this part of Clackamas County, Oregon, and southeast Oklahoma, it's like there's a lot of people are like, yeah, we deal with it. There's one other area I don't even have it on my map yet. Have you ever gotten anything from, like you're taking 26 out to Mount Hood and you start going through places like Mount Hood Village and Zigzag and stuff?
Towards Mount Hood Zigzag?
Yeah, but like out in the woods off the road. Have you ever gotten anything out like rhododendron, stuff like that, government camp?
I don't know that I have anything out there quite yet. I feel like there is Indian Henry, and then Timothy Lake. There's stuff up there. There's one guy one guy was saying his grandma saw one at Timothy Lake eating huckleberries. So that's kind of, I'm looking at the map here. So that's kind of in that direction towards rhododendron. Kind of up there.
Zigzag, and I think it's Lolo Pass Road. Yeah, East Lolo Pass Road has one of the weirdest stories I've taken on the podcast. It's the one where the guy is camping out there with his buddy, and long story short, they get down by this creek and pretty much they see a Bigfoot that turns into a billowing cloud, a billowing black cloud, and then it like goes across the creek. It's really weird.
I think I heard that story.
Yeah, I've heard that happen, something similar to that out in West Virginia too. So I don't know if that's another thing where they can like shapeshift in the dark clouds. Who knows? But
is that the one where it said it was like a panther or something? Like it had a panther look. Yeah, okay. Yep. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was up in the Zigzag forest. That's right.
Yeah, so definitely if you ever hear anything out in that area, let me know. But my goodness, Sayra, this has been a really fun conversation, and thank you for spending some of your time chatting about Bigfoot and what you have been privileged enough to have people talk to you about, because it is very cool what you do out there, and you're really at ground zero. And I'm so glad that someone with the right heart is out there to be able to document what people are doing in a respectful way, which is what I also try to do on the show. But how can people reach out? Is there a way they can reach out to you, or how should they keep up to date with the channel? And if you'd be able to share about that for a minute.
Yeah, so on YouTube, you can find my YouTube channel. It's Bigfoot Fades with a Z, Fadez, which is after, barbering and doing haircut fades. So bigfootfades@gmail.com. And I'm really interested in helping people bring their photos to life and help clean them up. And of course, I don't charge or anything like that. I'm just trying to help people out. So that's kind of been my support to the community, anything I can do there. So if anybody has anything they want help with, I can always try. I've also been doing animations and stuff for people just for fun. It's another great way to, so if somebody wants to tell their story, but they don't really want to go on a podcast, instead of me retelling it, I can create an animation to retell it, which is kind of a fun way to show it. So I've been using Sora too for that also.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. I was going to tell you too, I did have, was it Henry Franzoni that passed away?
Well, Henry Franzoni passed away last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I did have one guy that told me he worked in I think it was the Trojan plant.
Oh, yeah.
For a long time.
Oh, cool.
So I got to ask him some questions, like follow up on that one. And I was just kind of, I think Henry said that were they living down in it, he thought, or in the area?
He was looking into supposed tunnels under the Rainier area in Trojan Nuclear. He thought that they were down in the tunnels.
Yeah, this guy did tell me there's tunnels there. He'd been down in them.
Oh, wow.
So I asked him if he'd seen any evidence of them or anything, and he hadn't seen anything, but he did say there's some pretty vast tunnels under there for sure. So
that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Gosh. And he said that it was very secure too, that they would have people come out from the government to test the security of it. And it was some kind of weird story where one guy, he was like secured enough he could like jump through this fence or something. It was a weird story. Wow. So there was some interesting stuff with that area over there for sure. And then Timber, Oregon, that was another story I had too, where a guy had heard vocals where it sounded like they were speaking in Russian. And when he went out there, he said that he just heard them and it sounded like they were building something with like giant logs and they were talking to each other, and he just felt instantly sick, like a pain in his back or stomach, like potentially like a infrasound like type of took over him. So that was another, and that's pretty close to that kind of Trojan area, so kind of Rainier, Timber, Oregon.
Interesting. Well, Sayra, I always have an eye out for a new episode from your show. Look at that. Siri just activated. I said Sayra, not Siri, dude. My phone's being weird. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and it'll be fun to see what you get into in the future. I hope that you're able to continue documenting Bigfoot interactions out there in the Pacific Northwest, and we'll have to maybe check in with you sometime in the future. But thank you so much for coming on the show today.
All right. Thank you, Jeremiah.